Stone Whispers here again. It's been quite a while since I made my first video. Shortly after I made that video, I got pretty sick, a bad cold, and lost my voice, so I put off making a video. After I got better, I just sort of kept putting it off and procrastinating until today. I read an interesting article about procrastination on a blog that I like to visit from time to time, and I thought it was interesting, so I thought I'd share it with you. So I hope you enjoy it. So I'll just start. The misconception about procrastination is that you do it because you are lazy and can't manage your time well. Whereas the truth is procrastination is fueled by weakness in the face of impulse and a failure to think about thinking. Netflix reveals something about your own behavior you should have noticed by now. Something which keeps getting between you and things you want to accomplish. If you have Netflix, especially if you stream it on your TV, you tend to gradually accumulate a cache of hundreds of films you think you'll watch one day. This is a bigger deal than you think. Take a look at your queue. Why are there so damn many in there? By now, you could draw the cover art to Dead Man Walking from memory. Why do you keep passing over it? Psychologists actually know the answer to this question. To why you keep adding movies you will never watch to your growing collection of future rentals, and it's the same reason you believe you will eventually do what's best for yourself in all other parts of your life, but rarely do. A study conducted in 1999 by Reed Lowenstein and Galia Naraman had people pick 3 movies out of a selection of 24. Some were lowbrow, like Sleepless in Seattle or Mrs. Doubtfire. Some were highbrow, like Schindler's List or The Piano. In other words, it was a choice between movies which promised to be fun and forgettable, or would be memorable but required more effort to absorb. After picking the subjects had to watch one movie right away. They then had to watch another in 2 days, and the third 2 days after that. Most people picked Schindler's List as one of their 3. They knew it was a great movie because all their friends said it was. All the reviews were glowing, and it earned dozens of the highest awards. Most didn't, however, choose to watch it on the first day. Instead, people tended to pick lowbrow movies on the first day. Only 44% went for the heavier stuff first. The majority tended to pick comedies like The Mask, or action flicks like Speed, when they knew they had to watch it forthwith. Planning ahead, people picked highbrow movies 63% of the time for their second movie, and 71% of the time for their third. When they ran the experiment again, but told subjects they had to watch all 3 selections back to back, Schindler's List was 13 times less likely to be chosen at all. The researchers had a hunch people would go for the junk food first, but plan healthy meals in the future. Many studies over the years have shown that you tend to have time-inconsistent preferences. When asked if you would rather have fruit or cake 1 week from now, you will usually say fruit. A week later, when the slice of German chocolate and the apple are offered, you are statistically more likely to go for the cake. This is why your Netflix queue is full of great films you keep passing over for Family Guy. With Netflix, the choice of what to watch right now and what to watch later is like candy bars versus carrot sticks. When you are planning ahead, your better angels point to the nourishing choices. But in the moment, you go for what tastes good. As behavioral economist Catherine Milkman has pointed out, this is why grocery stores put candy right next to the checkout. This is sometimes called present bias. Being unable to grasp what you will change over time, and what you want now isn't the same thing you will want later. Present bias explains why you buy lettuce and bananas, only to throw them out later when you forget to eat them. This is why, when you are a kid, you wonder why adults don't own more toys. Present bias is why you've made the same resolution for the 10th year in a row, but this time you mean it. You are going to lose weight and forge a 6-pack Procrastination manifests itself within every aspect of your life. You wait until the last minute to buy Christmas presents. You put off seeing the dentist or getting that thing checked out by the doctor or filing taxes. You forget to register to vote. You need to get an oil change. There is a pile of dishes getting higher in the kitchen. Shouldn't you wash clothes now so you don't have to waste a Sunday cleaning everything you own? Perhaps the stakes are higher than choosing to play Angry Birds instead of doing sit-ups. You might have a deadline for a grant proposal, a dissertation, or a book. You'll get around to it. You'll start tomorrow. You'll take the time to learn a foreign language, to learn how to play an instrument. There's a growing list of books you'll read one day. Before you do, though, maybe you should check your email. You should head over to our Facebook, too, just to get it out of the way. A cup of coffee would probably get you going. It won't take long to grab one. Maybe just a few episodes of the show you love. You keep promising yourself that this will be the year to do all these things. You know your life would improve if you would just buckle down and put forth the effort. You can try to fight it back. You can buy a daily planner and a to-do list application for your phone. You can write yourself a note and fill out schedules. You can become a productivity junkie surrounded by instruments to make life more efficient. But these tools alone will not help, because the problem isn't you are a bad manager of your time. You are a bad tactician in the war inside your brain. Procrastination is such a pervasive element of the human experience. There are over 600 books for sale promising to snap you out of your bad habits. And this year alone, 120 new books on the topic were published. Obviously, this is a problem everyone admits to, so why is it so hard to defeat? To explain, consider the power of marshmallows. Walter Mischel conducted experiments at Stanford University throughout the late 60s and early 70s in which he and his researchers offered a bargain to children. The kids sat at a table in front of a bell and some treats. They could pick a pretzel, a cookie, or a giant marshmallow. They told the little boys and girls that they could either eat the treat right away or wait a few minutes. If they waited, they would double their payoff and get 2 treats. If they couldn't wait, they had to ring the bell, after which the researcher would end the experiment. Some made no attempt at self-control and just ate right away. Others stared intensely at the object of their desire until they gave in to temptation. Many writhed in agony, twisting their hands and feet while looking away. Some made silly noises. In the end, a third couldn't resist. What started as an experiment about delayed gratification has now, decades later, yielded a far more interesting set of revelations about metacognition, thinking about thinking. Mischel has followed the lives of all his subjects through high school, college, and into adulthood, where they accumulated children, mortgages, and jobs. The revelation from this research is kids who were able to overcome their desire for short-term reward in favor of a better outcome later weren't smarter than the other kids, nor were they less gluttonous. They just had a better grasp of how to trick themselves into doing what was best for them. They watched the wall instead of looking at the food. They tapped their feet instead of smelling the confection. The wait was torture for all, but some knew it was going to be impossible to just sit there and stare at the delicious, gigantic marshmallow without giving in. The younger the child, the worse they were at metacognition. Any parent can tell you little kids aren't the best at self-control. Among the older age groups, some are better at devising schemes for avoiding their own weak wills, and years later seem to have been able to use that power to squeeze more out of life. Thinking about thinking is the key. In the struggle between should versus want, some people have figured out something crucial. Want never goes away. Procrastination is all about choosing want over should, because you don't have a plan for those times when you can expect to be tempted. You are really bad at predicting your future mental states. In addition, you are terrible at choosing between now or later. Later is a murky place where anything could go wrong. If I were to offer you $50 now or $100 in a year, which would you take? Clearly, you'll take the $50 now. After all, who knows what could happen in a year, right? Okay, so what if I instead offered you $50 in 5 years or $100 in 6? Nothing has changed other than adding a delay. But now it feels just In the moment, rearranging the folders on your computer seems a lot more rewarding than some task due in a month, which might cost you your job or your diploma, so you wait until the night before. If you considered which would be more valuable in a month, continuing to get your paycheck or having an immaculate desktop, you would pick the greater reward. The tendency to get more rational when you are forced to wait is called hyperbolic discounting, because your dismissal of the better payoff later diminishes over time and makes on a nice slope on a graph. Evolutionary, it makes sense to always go for the sure bet now. Your ancestors didn't want to have to think about retirement or heart disease. Your brain evolved in a world where you probably wouldn't live to meet your grandchildren. The stupid monkey part of your brain wants to gobble up candy bars and go deeply into debt. Old you, if there even is one, can deal with those things. Hyperbolic discounting makes later an easy place to throw all those things you don't want to deal with, but you also overcommit to future plans for the same reason. You run out of time to get things done because you think in the future, that mysterious, fantastical realm of possibilities, you'll have more free time than you do now. And I'm getting pretty close to the end there, so there's still a fair bit more to the article, but I'll just skip to the conclusion here. So the trick is to accept that now you will not be the person facing those choices. It will be the future you. A person who can't be trusted. Future you will give in, and then you'll go back to being now you and feel weak and ashamed. Now you must trick future you into doing what is right for both parties. This is why food plans like Nutrisystem work for many people. Now you comes to spending a lot of money on a giant box of food which future you will have to deal with. People who get this concept use programs like Freedom, which disables internet access on a computer for up to 8 hours. A tool allowing now you to make it impossible for future you to sabotage your work. Capable psychonauts who think about thinking, about states of mind, about set and setting, can get things done not because they'll have more willpower, more drive, but because they know productivity is a game of cat and mouse versus a childish primal human predilection for pleasure and novelty which can never be excised from the soul. Your effort is better spent outsmarting yourself than making empty promises through plugging dates into a calendar, or setting